Well, hello. I haven't. I guess nice to post again. I haven't posted in a while due to schoolwork piling up, but I would like to go and talk about this disturbing new faction that a lot of people have been calling the quote unquote woke right. I don't. I think the quote unquote woke right goes over their head because it's goes over people's head because it's an oxymoron. I think it's a fitting oxymoron. I think it's a humorous oxymoron, but it goes over the head of people nonetheless. So I think from now on I'll be referring to them as the nationalist left, not to be confused with national or a national socialism, but which again for some reason a lot of people a lot of them hint at agreeing with, which again weird that you'd agree with socialists, but I digress. Though, I guess not digressing, I am here to talk about why these people, whether you want to call them the woke right, the groypers, though the term groypers is much more exclusive to the Nick Fuentes fans, though I think there's a large overlap with the other woke right commentators. But yes, I will be, first and foremost, I will be talking about why Nazism and fascism are literally just two forms of socialism. Bit surprising, I guess, that Nazis, the National Socialists, were indeed socialist. But again, so to further explain, we'll start with fascism, since that's where that's where Nazism got its fascist inspiration, or again, specifically Italian fascism, which is where it originated. And now to explain fascism, or rather, I guess I'll let the philosopher of fascism, who was, called that or titled that by Mussolini, Gentile, he declared that fascism is a form of socialism. In fact, it is the most viable form. And this is something you will see with the Nazis too, is that what their quote unquote private property is essentially private property until the state decides that the private property serves the interest of the community better in the hands of someone else, or just in the hands of the government, than you. And actually, to quote Adolf, I want everyone to keep what he has earned, subject to the principle of the good of the community takes priority over that of the individual, which again, actual socialism. But the state should retain control. Every owner should feel himself to be an agent of the state. The Third Reich will always retain the right to control property owners. And by the way, actual social, that's just my interpolation. But again, the fascist system is quite literally you have private property until your private property better serves the community in the hands of a different entity. Which, again, like I said, quite literally socialism. That, again, the Nazi government regulated and controlled every aspect of production and every aspect of commerce. If you actually analyze the system, you could not come to the conclusion that they were right-wingers. The only conclusion you could come to is that they are leftists. And that's what I would like to apply to this national left, the Groypers, the woke right, that they oftentimes talk about sympathy, again, that, maybe the Nazis weren't the bad guys, and again, talk about how we should have sided with Germany against Stalin, and to that I say we shouldn't have sided with either. But again, I am not applying labels of Nazism and fascism to the woke right. What happened is that they applied it to themselves. Again, when you say that fascism isn't so bad, when you say that the Nazis weren't so bad, when you say you admire Hitler, again, one can only come to the conclusion that you are a, yes, quote unquote, neo-Nazi. I prefer national left because it doesn't have that overused stigma. But again, the only two conclusions I can come to about these Groypers are that, one, and this is the lesser of the two, that they are just anti-Jew. They don't know Hitler's policies. They don't know that he referred to himself as a quote-unquote social warrior. Again, Hitler being a textbook leftist. So the next part I would like to touch on. The left, this national left, for some reason has an inclination towards Islam. You can see this with Tucker Carlson being an Islamist, or essentially an Islam apologist, and being a Sharia law apologist, saying that, Sharia law isn't so bad. And again, one can only assume that maybe we shouldn't be as aggressive with the Muslims. My argument is that we should be more aggressive. But again, Tucker Carlson, I remember a quote from him saying like, can you imagine like a Zionist Christian? And again, the funny thing is the Bible talks something about blessings and curses in relation to how you treat the Jews, which again, I guess you can choose to not follow the Bibles or follow or listen to the words of the Muslims saying death to the Jews and death to the Christians, which again, I guess to each their own. But that's the thing. These groypers share the same sympathy with the Muslims that the left does. Again, you can see them calling what's happening in Gaza a quote-unquote genocide, despite it actually just being a war. A war that the Muslims have decided that they don't want to quit, or at least decided for the longest time they don't want to quit. But again, I'm not going to touch too much on the Jew stuff because everyone's already been sold on that. All I'm going to say is that God said to the Jews that whoever blesses them will be blessed by God, and whoever curses them will be cursed by God. Which is to say, you can't be anti-Jew, but you are allowed to be not pro-Israel. Again, why? What the main question is, what is the basis of it? And people are saying, you're not allowed to criticize Israel. No, what's happening is that a lot of these people will just blame literally everything on Jews, including socialism. Again, a German concept. Another large part of this is that people like to say, I'd rather side with the groypers than the Democrats, which kind of weird to say, seeing that from what I've seen on the groypers, from what I've seen on Nick Fuentes and in the groypers in general, is that they tend to be pro Gavin Newsom and / pro Mamdani, which kind of weird calling Mamdani America first and preferring Gavin Newsom as opposed to JD Vance. Which, again, especially as a Californian, I think, it's, again, retarded to favor Gavin Newsom. But, again, what can you expect from leftists? But, again, now to touch on the topic of individual figures. Today I'll be going over Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, and Candace Owens. Now, I'll start with Candace Owens. I think out of the three, she's the most likely to be actually authentic. Well, semi-authentic. I think that she is either chasing clicks or, more likely, just genuinely crazy. And there's actually something recently with Ben Shapiro where he said that Candace Owens was saying that Erica Kirk was responsible for Charlie Kirk's death. And while Ben Shapiro is wrong on a technicality, he is not wrong in spirit. Candace Owens has gone to say that, it was weird how Erica Kirk was acting, again, with the insinuation that Erica Kirk was semi-responsible, if not, basically, Erica Kirk was a player in Charlie Kirk's death, which, again, the harassment of Erica Kirk online, it has been largely due to Candace Owens. She has gone on further to essentially say that, everyone who was friends with Charlie Kirk was responsible for his death. Basically, everyone else except the left was responsible for Charlie Kirk's death, and they were in on it. The Trump administration, Turning Point USA, and Erica Kirk, which, again, this is blatant leftist subversion. Now, and I'll this will be the last topic I touch on. I think it's likely that most of the groypers aren't self-proclaimed Marxists, but rather they are Marxist as a natural inclination towards Marxism. Again, I'll explain it as my last topic. And probably I'll explain it into further detail in a future video. But yes, and another thing about Candace Owens, she's saying that the Jews are responsible for everything. Jews buried dinosaur bones to trick Christians. Jews invented space to trick Christians. Again, she's just genuinely insane. National left, the groypers, are criticized for any of their policies, they always revert to the leftist talking point, or not leftist talking point, but leftist strategy of name calling. They'll call you a Jew, an Israeli, a Zionist, a neocon, a Mossad agent. Again, they will resort to the same thing the left does, just blatant name calling. And in addition, I think this is a large part about it's a large part of the reason why the Groypers are so large in number. It is the victim mentality, which you can see whenever Ben Shapiro was criticizing Tucker Carlson, and whenever anyone criticizes Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes, it's always for some reason, oh, they're canceling us. I thought we, the right, were the ones who were saying that free speech doesn't mean you need to be paid and you need to be, and that everyone needs to agree with you. What happened to Colbert and Kimmel. But again, what can you expect from leftists? And and like a lot of us true right wingers have been saying, we don't want Nick Fuentes to be booted off of every platform. What we want people to disavow Nick Fuentes. And again, I get the feeling that if right wingers started saying that Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson were traitors to the right, Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson's audience numbers wouldn't change, because the Groypers are not right wingers; they are left wingers. Again, all you need to do is analyze them. So again, that is one topic I wanted to talk about. That the way the national left acts is identical to the woke left, or the democratic. Again, whatever subdivisions you want to split them into, they are just blatant leftist, plain and simple. And now to move on to Tucker Carlson. Tucker R. Carlson is just blatantly a Muslim shell. It wouldn't come as a surprise to me if he came out as a closeted Muslim. But you cannot be a Christian and pro-Muslim because Muslims want to kill Christians. Plain and simple. I don't think I need to discuss this further. And again, now to touch on lastly, Nick Fuentes. He has repeatedly said that he is an admirer of Hitler and Stalin. And people claim that, you can admire someone for certain characteristics. Mamdani is charismatic. I in no means admire him. I despise him. I despise Hitler and Stalin. Again, Hitler being the largest socialist to ever exist, and Stalin being the largest communist to ever exist. And Nick Fuentes, as I said previously, supports Gavin Newsom over Trump, over J.D. Vance, and supported Kamala Harris. Or people can claim that he didn't support Kamala Harris. He just didn't like Trump, which, again, it's like, if you are a right-winger, if it's Harris versus Trump, you're going to go for Trump, regardless of what you think of Trump. And again, he has also expressed his hatred of the MAGA movement and Trump, which is, I wonder this about Nick Fuentes and, again, to also touch on Nick Fuentes, supposedly he said he was shouting storm the Capitol during January 6th and wasn't punished for it, might be a Fed. And I wonder about Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson. Do they truly believe that they're right wing, or again, do they know what they're doing? And if so, do they give a hearty chuckle when they realize that they're essentially duping what seems to be the majority of the conservative movement? And I don't think I think half of this division in the right is due to Nick Fuentes. It's due to Tucker Carlson. It's due to Candace Owens. But I think the other half is due to right wingers not disavowing them, because for some reason we need the Groyper vote, even though the Groypers are voting for Mamdani. They are voting for Gavin Newsom. Again, they are blatant leftist. And this last topic that I would like to cover is this idea of a quote-unquote natural Marxism, as natural as the devil's touch can be. I don't think Karl Marx created Marxism. I think what he did was that he gave a name to Marxism. I think what Marxism is, and as you can see this with this quote-unquote woke right, it is the devil's whisper in your ear. It isn't, and again, I don't think the majority of these Groypers wake up every day saying, "Oh, it's time to subvert reality. It's time to subvert everything. It's time to carry out Marxism, or carry out Marxist ideology. No, I think they think they're right wingers, but they are listening to the devil. They are letting themselves be socialists, or to be socialists, to be leftists, to be Islamists. Again, and I think this will be a large problem if it is not condemned. But yeah, that's about it. I just wanted to. This has been heating me up a bit, so wanted to get this off of my chest. And if you're a real right winger, post what you think of this in chat. And by real right winger, I mean non-national leftist, non-groiper. What do you think about them?